Echoing myself. All right. So thank you for being here, Mindy, for the second installment of Pop-Up Chat.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Of course. I know we've chatted in a group setting before a few times with our Pop Chat happy hours, which always get a little rowdy, and there's usually wine involved. It's only 3 o'clock. I don't know if we've got wine at this point in the day, but
I figured I it's water, I promise.
Yeah.
For the live stream, sometimes my sailor's mouth comes out after a glass of wine. So I figured I'd keep the water.
Keep it PG. Well, sounds good, because like I said, we've spoken in a group setting before, and we haven't really spoken one-on-one. So now's our chance. These pop-up chats are just meant to be totally informal, no real agenda. I've just found that there are so many interesting people on Twitter like you, and people that I genuinely want to connect with, and everyone is saying, oh, we should catch up on a Zoom. And I just kept thinking, why should we do these conversations privately when there's so many great takeaways that I end up hearing from people that other people could benefit from? So I'm sure that'll be the case today.
I love that.
Yeah. So we'll keep it formal and fun. So yeah, just tell us what's going on with you. I know you've had a big kind of fork in the road with quitting your job and just trying to figure things out. You started a blog. So tell us how that's been going and how you really came to make that decision and what's going on in your world.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy this year for sure. I don't think if you would have asked me in January of 2020 if I would have saw myself going in this direction, there's no way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have whatsoever. But it's been interesting to say the least. I think the biggest kind of aha moment came for me when my kids went back to school this fall, and it was a little different than when they got called home back in the spring. And I realized that this was actually going to be for a much longer term than what anybody cared to admit publicly.
Right.
And there was no way that they were going to go back to school or anything like that. So kind of working full time and having a first grader and a sixth grader doing school from home. And, my husband's, I'm going to be honest, he's the better homeschool teacher than I am, but he works 24-hour shifts as a firefighter EMT. So he's gone a lot. And when he is home, sometimes he's got to sleep. So I need to be available a lot for a lot of schooling and things along those lines. And it just got to be too much. Trying to work at a pace that I was working at prior to trying to not drop the ball. I felt like there were 1,000 glass balls in the top. Like right over my head. And
it's kind of like the graphics we have right now. And those are glass and not bubbles.
They're not bubbles, they're glass. And like at any given point, like if one came crashing, I felt like they were all just gonna.
Right.
So after day 2 of homeschool, I realized that it wasn't feasible, and doing this long term wasn't going to be enjoyable or healthy for anybody. And I don't want them to come out of this completely traumatized.
Yeah.
So it was, I think that was a Tuesday. And by Friday, I called my boss at that point and was like, I'm really sorry, but I just can't keep working at this pace. And I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I've got to back off for a while.
Yeah.
And it's been a very interesting discovery process for sure, but it's been good. It's been really good.
Was that a bittersweet departure? Was it a job that you really didn't want to leave, but you felt like family had to come first and you had to kind of put that on the back burner for a bit? Or were you kind of craving a new chapter professionally as well?
I think I was craving some new projects to work on. It wasn't necessarily leaving that specifically. I never really, I saw myself, branching out and moving on eventually, but I don't think anywhere near as soon as I did. So it definitely was bittersweet. The team that I had and my bosses and the people that I worked for we were very much so like family oriented. We
Yeah.
worked hard, we fought hard. But at the end of the day, like they always had my back. And so having to have that conversation, like I was like bawling hysterically. But it was definitely a sad day. So,
and in an industry that you love, like sometimes like, did you feel like that was your dream job and like you felt like you didn't know if you were ever going to find something like that again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was working with Paul Mitchell schools, and I'm a graduate of a Paul Mitchell school. And when I went through cosmetology school, I was 20, turning 21.
Yeah.
And that was the first place that I really felt empowered. Kind of, they taught us to say yes to every opportunity. And it was, looking back on it, it was a lot more of teaching you to fight imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Without even realizing it. Like you didn't have to be the best, but just getting out there and putting your hands in hair or trying a new makeup technique or something along those lines, just putting it out there, practicing and getting used to it. And I learned more in that 10 months than I did in any of my college experience. Yeah. So then getting to turn around and market that and find, new audiences and new students that would be as excited about it as I was, like that was really fun. And I did it for 5.5 years. So it was hard to leave.
Yeah. And that might be something that other people can relate to. I know even in my last job, when I left the corporate world, like I loved the work and I still decided to leave. And I kept thinking, gosh, is that going to be the best thing I ever do, is working for that company? It was a trendy company that, I felt kind of privileged to be there at the time. But I decided to take the leap and I'm like, gosh, I'm not going to have like this name on my resume anymore. I have to kind of invent my own success now, or try to find another company that I feel like is just as cool or interesting to other people. And I over these past 2 years since I've left, I've let go of that, like feeling like you need like a specific cool name on your resume to justify like who you are and what you can do professionally. So.
And I think that's why I enjoyed following you so much, even at the beginning of kind of my foray into Twitter earlier in the year. Yeah. You're one of the first people that I kind of discovered on Twitter. Aww. And I think that kind of made me gravitate towards you and your content. Of course, too, I love the pop culture and the boy bands, and I could
like being an NSYNC girl.
Yeah, I know I'm the NSYNC girl, but I still have love for you.
I still love it.
Which I have a funny story about that I haven't shared with you yet, but I will share in a second.
Okay, let me just get to the chat here. Let's see. Joe is giving you a shout out. Kudos to you, Mindy, as a parent helping your kids get through the school year. I get to be that guy at my school that sends parents the scary emails that say, hey, we're going virtual, and hey, we're coming back to school, and it's a whirlwind.
Joe, I'm sorry for all the blowback that you get either way, because you cannot make anybody happy right now.
Yeah, I am just in awe of any parents who are on Twitter. Like everyone is so involved in this marketing Twitter thing and crushing it at their jobs. And I forget many of you have rugrats at home that you have to parent. I am childless at the moment, and I don't know how you guys do it. You guys are just way cooler than I think I will. I will be. I probably won't have the time for this anymore, but you guys balance it all. It just blows my mind.
You'll find a way, trust me. You'll be just fine.
We'll see. Just fine. Our friend Jason, Brianna, Mindy, greatest day ever.
Jason!
Who is also on Twitch. He has a live stream these days, so if you aren't following Jason, please go to his channel, give him some hugs. Virtual hugs, as we see here. But okay, tell me your NSYNC story.
Okay, so I don't think we've ever gotten to this on any of your pop chats or even Pop Chat After Dark, which is if no one has been to a Pop Chat happy hour yet, make sure you attend and make sure you stay for the things that happen after dark.
Yes.
That's where the stories
quick update on that, actually. So speaking of Jason, he's actually going to co-host the next Pop Chat happy hour, kind of like Claire did the last time. So thank you for reminding me. It's going to be December 16th. I'm going to announce it tomorrow, but we're going to talk about like throwback Christmas toys, like the Tickle Me Elmo craze, like back in the day.
Exactly where my head went.
Yeah, right. Furbies. That's all I can think of at the moment, but we're going to do a deep dive on it. But
I love it.
Thanks for that reminder. Okay, NSYNC. Go ahead.
Okay, so, and I was digging through my basement trying to find this today, but I actually think that they're at my mom's house. But when I was 13, my sister and I actually won Backstage Passes off the radio to meet NSYNC. So what I was really hoping to surprise you with today that I had zero luck finding, I'm pretty sure they're my mom's, but were photos of me in 8th grade. Super awkward phase I had. Acne, I had chopped off my hair. I had just quit competitive gymnastics, so I gained like 40 pounds. I was like really awkward. And of course, that would be the year that I won Backstage Passes to meet NSYNC. But I had all of my photos with all of them. And I was really hoping to be able to share them.
Well, maybe by December 16th, when we do the happy hour, you can bring that out and everyone can enjoy those.
I know. It was really, really sad. That was like a highlight. And that was their first tour. And it was also their first show where they sang their Christmas songs as well. So they sang like Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
So good.
All that. And Britney Spears was their opening act.
So yes, that was my first concert ever, was that tour. They came to the Broward County Fair, which is just like this little fair up the road. And I went with my cousin and my aunt. And I remember saying to my cousin, when Britney Spears came out, they had the big sign with her name on it. I remember saying, "Who's Britney Spears?" At the time. Little did I know she would become the goddess that I would worship for decades. But
I remember like being super bitter because at that point, like the rumors had started to circulate that she was dating Justin. And I was like, I'm not going to like her. And then I saw her perform and I'm like, oh my God, I love her so much.
I know.
And I still feel like that to this day.
Yes. Well, how do you feel about Jessica Biel?
What about Jessica Biel?
Do you like Jessica Biel because she's married to Justin Timberlake?
Oh,
are you a fan?
I mean, I thought he could do better. To be honest, my husband loves her.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, really, the Seventh Heaven girl?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I wasn't a huge fan.
Would have been you. I don't know.
Should have been me. Sorry, Hubs.
He's gotcha. Well, it's hard to believe that you ever had an awkward phase because now you're like the queen of beauty and hair and all the things. Tell me what you're working on. Oh, that's why. Yeah, you had to kind of combat it and get through that phase. That makes sense. That makes sense. So tell me what you're working on TikTok, because I know you started experimenting a little bit with some like short hair tutorials and things. So is that something you're kind of thinking about pursuing a bit further?
Yeah, I started to kind of do a couple just little tutorials. I have done 2 and I've thrown them both up on TikTok and on Reels just to see what would bite. TikTok, I originally had kind of just like, it was like my quarantine outlet. So it's kind of more of like drunk mom vibe.
We love around here.
I'm a big fan of, but then my daughter and all of her friends started to get really popular on TikTok and then discovered my TikTok. So now I feel like I kind of have to censor it a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, but with everything going on and kind of switching gears into, starting my own blog and kind of just finding different projects to work on, I figured I'll also go back to my behind the chair days and share some tips and tricks. So I put up a couple of different tutorials, one with the curtain bangs are super popular again. So that's something that I've always had. So that's easy. And then just some wand curling tutorials and things like that. So we'll just kind of see how it goes. And I'm not putting too much pressure on myself, but just making it fun.
Yeah. And that's what TikTok is for. And I think that's so funny that you said that your kids are like discovering your content, when like before it was always like, we don't want our parents to see our stuff. Now it's like, we don't want our kids to see our stuff.
And like, this happened. I never got like a free time.
Yeah. Oh, it's exhausting. It's so weird to think about.
Yeah, like my parents like checking my AOL profile to make sure it was appropriate to like my daughter being like, Mom, that TikTok that you created, my friend is talking about it.
Oh my gosh, how times have changed. Well, that reminds me, there was this article I was reading a few years ago, or maybe it was like last year, the year before, and this girl, she was like 14 or 15, actually wrote it, and she was saying, she was making this point about how she hasn't had privacy her whole life because her parents had been documenting her life since birth. Like you have a baby, everyone puts, I have several friends who have Instagram accounts dedicated for their infants right now.
That makes me feel uncomfortable.
It's like having your awkward phase and, their first time at the dentist, like we saw with David after dentist, and having your children's almost like privacy. I don't want to say being violated, but they're not really having a say in it until they get older. And they're like, oh, my classmates or my employer just pulled up this video of me from when I was 7 years old that you posted, Mom. Like, thanks a lot. It's a topic that I didn't really consider until I read that.
I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that. And I've even, as a couple years ago, I set my Instagram public and kind of started posting more and not really caring like what other people were thinking. But at the same time, like, I would start posting to stories and my kids would be like, don't take a picture of me or don't do it. Are you putting that on Instagram? And then you kind of start to think like, well, maybe like they need to know that they should have a say in whether or not they get posted or if they're on it too much. And so I think if you really look at my Instagram, I don't post them a ton. And I only post them if it's something that like they want to be posted on, or if they're having fun. Like the other night I did an Instagram poll at my daughter's request.
With her hair, I saw that. How'd that go?
I lost miserably. So this weekend we're going to be coloring her hair red.
Oh, no.
Tonight we're going to be going and getting all the stuff for it. So I was really hoping that some people would help me out.
Yeah.
I think I lost like 85% to 50%.
Well, you're still in control there. I mean, you're going to be the one doing it, I assume. So yeah, you can kind of maybe make it a little bit darker than you wanted it to be or whatnot. Let's see. Jake says, archive those old posts. They should have a voice in their digital footprint until they are fully in control of the decision. Yeah, and maybe that's a use case for stories. It's one thing to have something fleeting, but yeah, this girl was saying that like she was, about to enter college and there were like embarrassing videos of her out there that it's just not cool.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's something that even now as I'm kind of, you have to mentor your kids as they start to use social media too. So, and letting them know like, hey, you can't post this of somebody else if they're not comfortable with it, or make sure if you're posting something your friends know. Or it's also interesting too, from a parent standpoint, like I don't post other kids very visibly to my Instagram or any of my social channels. Like I've actually had a parent of one of Ellie's friends who has said like, we don't use social media. We keep everything off of social media for domestic violence reasons and things like that. So that kind of triggered like, okay, I have to make sure at her birthday party, this girl isn't in any photos. If I post a photo of my daughter's birthday party or, anything along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's interesting.
Yeah, that reminds me. My first job out of college, actually, I did marketing and PR for a domestic violence charity. It was actually a shelter. Like half of the facility were offices and the other half were actually residences where victims of domestic violence would come and live in their with their kids often after they're escaping a dangerous situation. So we went through all kinds of training about that, about even if, you're at work, like for instance, let's say you work at the front desk at a gym and someone calls and said, hey, have you seen my wife, or have you, she hasn't come home yet. Is she there? Like you can't disclose that stuff because, just telling people and disclosing whereabouts of kids or families or anyone, there is that risk. And I don't think we think about that a lot.
No, I don't think so either. And I think it's definitely something that you're going to see kind of form as you go too, because you also see a lot of like the momfluencers that are out there, and they're like mommy and me matching outfits, and then they got these YouTube channels. Like, what happens is their kids kind of mature, and maybe that's not the path they want. Like, is this going to be like the child star 2.0?
I hadn't.
And these are things that I've kind of thought about just as a parent. Like, you see like the Charlie D'Amelios of the world getting huge, and everybody's like, oh, let your kid have a public TikTok. And I'm like, no.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how parents handle it, just having phones in the classroom, and just the way cyberbullying must happen these days, and even just the constant comparison that they must go through.
Yeah.
That's what terrifies me about having kids. Probably why I haven't done it yet. I'm like, I don't know. How am I going to do this?
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. But I mean, there's no right, wrong, or way. You just have to do what feels the best for you. So
yeah.
And off you go.
So what else is new with the blog? What is your vision for that? Is that just kind of an outlet for you right now as you I feel like everyone needs a blog when they make a big leap like that, just to kind of get things out and figure themselves out.
That's kind of it. I really have no huge major plans for it. I just I got a lot of questions when I left my job because I did it so abruptly, and a lot of people were shocked. And we have a large network that we worked with. We had 112 live Paul Mitchell schools, and everybody is a very close, tight-knit network. And so they were all like, what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
And it almost started as a way to kind of let people in, like, hey, I promise there was no bad blood. And, it was more so like, this is what we had to do to kind of survive and make sure we still had healthy home environments. And I needed a better work-life balance. And a lot of it was self-inflicted because I was doing that, and I was contracting, and I had a lot of other irons in the fire, and I just had to kind of strip a lot of it down to the bare minimum there for a while. So the blog kind of really came from that. And then it kind of just started to become therapeutic. So I've written 4 posts, and even if I go back and look at them, I can kind of see how they're becoming a little bit more lighthearted, and I don't feel as much anxiety constantly. And even though I have no idea what I'm doing right now, it's like, I'm okay with it now.
Right.
Like, I'm just going as I go. Whatever comes, I kind of deal with it. And normally it's not really me. Yeah. I've always been like, okay, well, if I do this next step, then I need to know that I'm going to be making this much money, or I'm going to have this in benefits, or this type of freedom, and these are going to be da-da-da-da-da. And now I'm just like, meh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like that you've framed it as reinventing yourself, because I went through that too. I felt like my job was my life, and that's what defined me. And when I didn't have it anymore, I'm like, okay, who am I? Why? What am I going to put out there now? What am I going to do? Like, I needed to reinvent myself too, and redefine what it was that I wanted to talk about and share with people. So I think that's really part of the process, is just starting to write. And I think you're feeling them become more lighthearted, but maybe also more just like natural, like more like your own voice now. Now that you've gotten out like that deep stuff, you can just kind of let go and be yourself. So I've enjoyed reading it.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Forward to more posts. Yeah.
It's interesting too. I think we do rely so heavily as an identity on not just what we do, but who we work for, and having that brand name attached to it. And then when I didn't have one, I don't think I was active really on Twitter for probably a solid month. Like, I would pop in here and there, but all of a sudden I was like, well, I don't work for a big name brand anymore. And are people going to care what I say on marketing Twitter? Because
you're out of the club. No.
That's what I thought. I was like, I'm out. Like, I don't. I have nothing to offer anymore. And then as I just started to write, I kind of refound myself too. And it's, and I think everybody has those moments, and you kind of reinvent yourself, whether it's from a career standpoint, or, you always hear about like the breakup haircut. Like if you go through a breakup and you chop up all your hair, or all of a sudden you go become a blonde or whatever it is, there's always these little steps of reinvention that you notice throughout your entire life. Like nobody stays the same forever.
Right.
And I think the more that you kind of accept those moments and celebrate those moments, even if they're tiny, the more fun life can be in general.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, a tiny example of those, even if you're not doing like a physical change and dyeing your hair, your appearance, even just I found writing my Twitter bio and like just explaining where I want to go and who I am and what I want to be, and taking out all these handles from places that were part of my past, I've found to be enlightening. But again, that's also where like that doubt has sunk in. I'm like, I don't have anything really important anymore to add to this. And for me personally, and those of you here, a lot of you know that I teach at the University of Florida. So now I'm like, am I like that example of that person, you know, that phrase, those who can't do, teach? Like that is what I feel like hits me all the time. And I'm like, ugh, I don't belong, you know? So I think the more that you can just show up and kind of not only just prove people wrong, but I think it proves it to yourself, the more that you are out there publishing, writing, and just sharing your thoughts. Like everything is valid. It's not your past and those other jobs that really, that they're not the only things that speak to what you can do.
Right.
There still are things you will do in the future, whether it's with your blog or a big corporation or with your own TikTok, like you can still convey that.
Yeah. And we're definitely our own biggest critics. Nobody cares as much as we care.
Right.
And that's like the biggest thing that I'm starting to realize.
Yeah.
So, but it has been cool. I've had a lot of people reach out since I've started to post those blog posts and just say, hey, I quit my job too. It was too much. I don't even have kids, but I quit my job. And now I'm going to start this. And this was the perfect excuse to do what I've always wanted. And I've been putting it off. And I got furloughed and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool. I've gotten to talk to a lot of cool people.
Yeah, it's like we're starting to feel and see those silver linings of 2020, back when all of us were kind of hitting rock bottom. Now we're starting to see everything come full circle.
Yep.
It says this is the first year I'm back on Twitter since I stopped working in sports, and having a team name attached to my bio, Rediscovery, is pretty sweet. Yep.
See, that's huge.
Joe belongs in my eyes.
He totally belongs. Big fan of Joe.
Yes. I know he's been gaming with Joe Chuck on Twitch. All that fun stuff.
I love Joe Chuck. He's the best hype man.
He really is. He's awesome. Which, speaking of hype people, I know we all were getting a bunch of notifications today about Christina's tweet.
Let's talk about Christina.
So, yes.
Just the queen of the hype.
She's a gem. And I think it's so kind of funny right now because she just hit 10,000 followers today, but she's locked out on Twitter right now because she's been retweeting too much, so she can't even celebrate. So
we have
I wanted to like tweet and congratulate her, but I didn't want to like steal her thunder and be like, take that moment from her. Like I'm waiting for her to get unlocked so she can celebrate with everyone. Oh, she is back?
She's back?
I was DM'd.
Got unlocked. It was only temporary.
Oh,
she's verified.
Oh gosh.
Can we start a campaign? Can they just
Who do we know?
If she's got that fancy blue check, will she stop getting locked out?
Wait, are you sure? She told me she can only retweet. Oh, wait, 5 minutes ago. Okay, yeah. Okay, she's back. Woo!
All right.
Okay. The queen.
The queen is back, and congratulations on 10K.
Yes. Huge milestone. So, all right. Well, I keep these pop-up chats to half hour, whereas the Zoom, the happy hours, those can go until after midnight. As
apparently they went till after midnight last time.
They did. I think I told you. Yeah, I ended up hopping off myself, and I gave the reins to Adrian. Said no one ever.
That was your own fault.
As long as they were having fun. And then like, oh my God, the last after that. Yeah, TJ was there till like it was after midnight. Something happened with like dolls. I don't know.
I saw some creepy dolls the next day. And then Jess Bruns was all like, I was in a commercial.
How did that not come out during those first 2 hours we were talking about commercials? Yeah, never hand control to Adrian. So, but yeah, Jason, you will help me next time. You'll be in control. Maybe I'll have better judgment next time and not give it to Adrian.
I'm a fan. I like it when things get rowdy.
Me too. I mean, we weren't streaming anywhere. That was just for us.
Yeah, once the streaming went dark, it got off.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, anything else you want to add about what's next? What you're working on? Where people can? I'm pretty sure everyone follows you. But any closing thoughts before I let you go for the day?
Just an honest thanks for everybody that's actually read and engaged in my posts and given some great feedback. And I've gotten some really great DMs from it. And it's just been a really cool place. So I appreciate the support from the community for sure.
That's the best. And I think that's a great reminder for people, because I think a lot of us, we shy away from writing in long form because, writing little tweets here and there is fun. You feel like you can kind of express yourself a little bit. But once you write and express yourself with a long form blog post and you really get everything out, I feel like that is when you get those really sweet DMs and you really build that connection. So is that something you would recommend to people who are maybe on the fence about blogging? And what would you say to them?
Just do it. Just put it out there. Mm-hmm. And even if it's just for yourself, it'll feel so much better that it's there and it's living somewhere. But I guarantee that there's going to be someone somewhere that is going to feel the exact same way that you're feeling in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And just connect with one person. It makes your feelings so much more validated to where you can actually digest them and then just move on.
Right.
So it's been great.
Yeah, so. I had that. I'll let you go in a second, but I had a similar experience where when I started blogging, I was like, all my friends from high school are going to read this and think I'm so cheesy or be like, what is she doing? And the opposite happened. Like friends from high school that I hadn't spoken to in so long, as Jake was just saying, how your friends on Facebook kind of become your acquaintances. They were reaching out to me and telling me what they're up to now and how a certain post helped them. So it actually had the opposite effect where I was kind of thinking they were judging me, and they also sent me sweet messages. So you'll be surprised of who you'll connect with when you just
very pleasantly surprised.
Exactly. Well, thanks. Yeah, this was so fun. Yeah, more to come. I'll see you tomorrow during Pop Chat.
I will be at Pop Chat for sure.
Awesome. For sure. All right, talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. This was fun. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay.